The economy's booming. Explain this then. All right, so out comes this new consumer expenditure number from the BLS, Bureau of Labor Statistics, which I freaking love. This is how, I use a lot of those in my book here, Relax or Retire, which if you haven't got yet, shame on you. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, shame on you too. And if you haven't hit the like button, shame on you too. A trifecta of shame. You haven't bought my book, you haven't paused the like button, and you haven't subscribed to the channel. Shame, 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 shame. Anyway, so I love the BLS numbers. I love the consumer expenditure stuff. This is fantastic. From this is where we get CPI numbers, by the way. And you can see right here, during the same period from 2022 to 2023, CPI rose by 4.1%. Yet average income before taxes increased by 8.3. All right, so the average income increased more than double the increase in inflation, which is, oh, that's a great thing, Josh. The economy is booming, says the economist. In fact, you can see, look, the average annual expenditures for all consumers was a 5.9% increase from the previous year. So all the economists who just don't know their head from the hole in the ground say that just proves the economy is booming. 8.3% in average income, 4.1% in CPI, meaning the 5.9% increase in expenditures, which means they still have more money, disposable money left over. And we're going to show you, though, this is what always kind of cracks me up. Here's the average. I'm not going to show you why that's just silly. I'm going to show you here in just a second. Average annual expenditures are broken down into 14 major components. The top 5 are housing is by far and away number 1, 32.9%. So as I say in my book, and I'll say to you, that housing, 33% of CPI is based on the increase in housing costs. If your mortgage is paid off, unless your real estate property tax is going up by 33% a year, which they're just not. They might have in 1 year, but they're not going up by 33% a year. CPI is no longer relative to you. It's just not. And if you have a fixed rate mortgage like I do, CPI is not relevant to you because you're simply isn't going, your cost of housing isn't increasing by what CPI says. It's just not. Because how CPI figures this, they have this owner's equivalent rent. How much does it cost to rent your house to yourself? It doesn't make any sense. And then part of that is too, what is the actual rent? You're like, well, I don't rent either way. I don't rent to myself and I don't pay rent. It's dumb. But anyway, that's what we use for CPI. So transportation is always is number 2. So housing is number 1 by far. Transportation comes in at far second. Food comes in at 13% of total expenditures. Personal insurance and pensions, which is how much you're contributing your 401k, FICA tax on that, comes in number 4. And then healthcare, a far away number 5, 8%. Healthcare is number 5 at 8%. But healthcare is the biggest cost in expenditures. It might be for retirees, but certainly not for people who are not retired. It's just a fact. What happens is when you retire, as I talk about again in my book, when you retire is your cost of housing drops, your cost of food drops, your cost of transportation drops, your cost of healthcare jumps up relative to everything else because healthcare now is a bigger proportion of your expenditures because what was you were spending before on housing, transportation, and other things is no longer you're not spending that much on that. Instead, you're spending a lot more of your expenditures on healthcare and entertainment, frankly. And entertainment right here is number 5 and total expenditures, 4.7%. Check this out. The next largest increase right here. The only major components to decrease in expenditures from 2022 to 2023 were cash contributions, which went down almost 14%. And then tobacco and smoking went down 0.3%. Cash contributions. You know what cash contributions are? Charitable giving. That went down 13.7%. Why am I so confident as retirees age they don't spend as much and there's certainly no retirement crisis to worry about? You want to know why? Because we see cash contributions go up as people age. Charitable contributions go up as people age. Why? Because people have more disposable income relative to their expenditures. Maybe not more disposable income on a totality, but relative to the expenditures they do, thus they're more able to send money to charities. What does a 13.7% decline in charitable contributions tell you? That people's budgets are getting tight and they're not giving as much away. I mean, that's a significant decline, 13.7%. And I don't know what it was in 2021 to 2022. I imagine it's the same thing. So we're seeing a significant decline in charitable contributions. That is not a sign of a family economic unit having a lot more flush with cash. Not at all. And remember, again, as I say all the time, look, I thought we'd have deflation by not deflation, but lower inflation a la Japan. And I've been wrong. But inflation breeds on itself. What used to cost $1 in 2020, if it goes by 5%, it's $1.05 in 2021. But then it goes to a buck. Then it goes to $1.11 in 2022, $1.17 in 2023, all with a 5% inflation. Right? And even if we have a 4% inflation, it goes, we'll just say, to $1.21 in 2023 or 4, whatever it is. Even though the cost is decelerating, it's still growing on top of what it was before. So we were here, now we're way up here. Even though the growth of the cost is decelerating, it's not growing as high, it's still growing. It's not drawing back. If eggs were $1 a dozen and now they're $3 a dozen, people scream like, "Oh my!" But the economists will say, "Yeah, but it used to be 5." I say, "Yeah, but now it's 3." Has it gone back to anywhere near where it was? No. So the inflation is still a big deal. And the number one increase in cost, which is very interesting to me, was education. I was like, what? So you got right here, education was the largest increase in expenditures. Well, if you don't have kids, that's not going to affect you, or I don't know what that would be, but still. But point 2 is miscellaneous expenditures, 17.3. So miscellaneous expenditures are going up. I would say that's non-budgeted items. Like, I don't know, maybe something to fix your HVAC. I don't know what it'd be. Maybe put a new roof on. But yet we know for a fact cash contributions are going down significantly. That's not a sign of a healthy economic household unit. It's just not. And you can argue all day long as proof that, as economists will do, like, oh my goodness, it's great. Not for the average family, as we can see right here. Even though the average family income has increased more than the average family expenditures and has increased more than CPI. The fact that cash contributions, charitable contributions, went down is proof of the pudding right there. And you're going to have to convince me otherwise. I'll let you see do it. Explain to me why a household is now, they got more disposable income, is giving less. Explain that to me. Let's hear it. Now, love your thoughts. God bless. Don't forget to paw, subscribe, and buy. PSB. Paw, subscribe, and buy. See ya.